guys, and welcome back to the Cruel Corner. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty corner for all things Formula E. So, round number 1 here at Berlin has come to a close, and what can be said about that race? It was a bit of a slow burner, wasn't it, really? There was a few interesting little battles and overtakes throughout the race, but nothing really built up to the crescendo until that final safety car period. Just a few laps left to go, and it all seemed to kick off there, didn't it, really? There was a lot happening, a lot to dive in, a lot to divulge, and yeah, it'll be an interesting race going into round number 2 here at Berlin, that's for sure. So you've never seen this series before. I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look at bonus points. They're sometimes not for some drivers to do something extra special during a race. And on the rare occasion I do all minus points, those drivers do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Cruel Room standings then going into this episode. It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is right now, and based on how well they did this weekend, can you see them going up? Can you see them going down? As I mentioned, it's certainly an interesting race. The pit boost, of course, caused a little bit of chaos at times, didn't it? So yeah, there's a lot to divulge, and as always, I'm going to try my best to sink my teeth into it. So without further ado then, let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Mitch Evans, hallelujah, here he is. He has not scored any points this season, apart from round numero 1, where he took victory and 25 points, and here he is in Berlin, finally picking up another 25 points and a victory. So it is literally all or nothing for Mitch Evans' campaign this season. Of course, 50 points on the board now, great effort. I mean, that's just some consolation to what has been a terrible season for him. But you cannot doubt or fault what he has done this weekend. He has been absolutely stunning. Pole position, extra 3 points for that, isn't there, as well, of course. So yeah, pole position to Mitch Evans, and then just dominated the race, really. I don't think there was any point he wasn't leading, actually. Yeah, a great effort by Mitch Evans this weekend. Really just dominated the weekend. He was the driver of the day by a country mile and just drove faultlessly. Can't fault a thing. Controlled, measured, that attack from Verline towards the end. He was just like, yeah, you get on with it, mate. I'm going to stay doing my thing. Verline made that mistake then, which was obviously a crucial mistake at the end, because Verline caught all that time up again, but still couldn't find a way around Mitch Evans. So he drove faultlessly, drove really well, and secured victory, a well-earned victory. And it's nice to see him do some good this season at last once again. Yeah, what a difficult year it's been, from championship, almost winning it last season, to finally we're celebrating yet another win. It's, yeah, few and far between, but here it is. It's 11. I'm giving him 1 bonus point. 11 to Mitch Evans for what was a faultless weekend so far in Berlin. Let's hope he can keep it up for round number 2. But, yeah, Berlin, race 1, 11 points. In second place, we come to Pascal Wehrlein in the first of the Porsches. So, what can be said about Verline's race? Well, again, a great drive, nearly got victory, but he made a mistake whilst hunting down Mitch Evans, which cost him like a second or two, and that meant then he had to catch that time back up again in the closing stages, and then just ran out of laps. Had he not made that mistake, I think Verline would have got around Mitch Evans, no problem at all. The big talking point, of course, though, is I view their entirety of the weekend so far, and we have to talk about that free practice 1 shunt with his own teammate, Antonio Felix da Costa. At the end of free practice 1, they were both on preparation laps. Pascal Wehrlein was on a 350 kilowatt attack, and da Costa was on a 300. Now, I'm not sure if it was a miscommunication between the two of them, but going into the final corner, Wehrlein went wide. Now, was that just to straighten the line up to get more speed down the straight to set a representative lap time, or was it a mistake? I don't know. However, da Costa slipped up his inside, and then just as they were rounding the start-finish line, it's like a slight kink to the right. He caught the back of the rear crash box of his own teammate da Costa and tagged him, tipped him into a spin and spat him straight into the wall. Heavily damaged the Porsche of his teammate and damaged the nose of his own car as well, causing a red flag. And yeah, damaged his teammate's own practice session, damaged his own teammate's car. There's been a lot of animosity within the Porsche team of recently. There's the incident where they nearly came together in a free practice session back in America a few races ago, and apparently there's been some behind the scenes animosity as well, which isn't great, and this certainly doesn't help the relationship in any way, shape or form, does it? So yeah, unfortunately for Pascal Wehrlein, it was a great race this weekend. P2 is just what he needed to keep his championship hopes alive, slashes the gap from 69 points to 50 to Ollie Rowland, who had a bit of a nightmare this race. And yeah, okay, we've got 3 races left to go, but he puts himself in a good position to mathematically take it into London now. So let's see what happens in race number 2. But for now, Pascal Wehrlein, I have to punish what he did in the free practice session, and it's lucky that he doesn't get a lottery of the week, but I've given him 4 points. 4 points. So yeah, he can thank me for those, because it was going to be a lottery of the week, but a great recovery drive from P9 after his 3-place grid penalty for the incident with his own teammate, recovering to P2. Good effort. 4 points to Wehrlein. Very, very, very lucky he got those. Securing 3rd place after crossing the line in P4, we come to Edoardo Mortara in the Mahindra. Back-to-back podiums for Mortara, and this Mahindra team have just had a massive turnaround in fortune, haven't they? They have well exceeded my expectations, and even I expected them to do well. So yeah, they always said going into this season, we're on top of this, we're on top of the Gen 3.5 era. We have made progress in terms of how we deliver the efficiency to the powertrain and everything, and I was like, oh, that'd be good if they can score double points here and there, always have one car in the points. Well, now it seems like they can't get off the bloody podium. Well done, Mahindra. It's lovely to see. I've always supported Mahindra, I've always had a soft spot for them, and it's great to see them doing well again. This result actually, I think, puts them in P4 in the team standings now, ahead of McLaren, so that's a fantastic effort. Really, really good job. And yeah, as we mentioned, crossing the line in P4, but a 5-second time penalty for a car ahead, who we'll discuss in a moment, meant that he finishes in P3. Great job. Great effort indeed. It's a perfect end to Edoardo Mortara. It can be no less than that. A Mahindra on a podium deserves praise and deserves a full 10 points. 4th place is, of course, Taylor Barnard in the first of the McLarens. The young rookie doing, once again, a stunning job. He overtakes Antonio Felix da Costa now for the 3rd position in the driver's standings. I'm not sure with this result if Taylor Barnard can still mathematically win the championship now or not, but I think inevitably it means that after race number 2, unless he wins and something else ridiculous happens, that I don't think he'll be able to take it into London. But nonetheless, what a stunning season this rookie has had, and he could have been so much more as well without getting punted off by Mortara a few races ago and put into the wall whilst fighting for a podium. You know, just little results like that. You know, 15 points went missing there and a couple of other tough races, but apart from that, you know, for a rookie, Taylor Barnard has really hit the ground running, and once again here he is delivering the goods with a P4 finish for the departed McLaren team. It's going to be a shame to see 2 less cars on the grid, but it looks like McLaren haven't found an investor in time, so yeah, it looks like we will be reducing the grid to 20 for next season, but that's a shame. But nonetheless, fingers crossed something can happen as a late deal, but it's looking all a bit last minute now, isn't it? So yeah, McLaren leaving the team leaving the Formula E Championship at the end of the year. Taylor Barnard heavily linked to DS Penske now. Possibly Gunther leaving there. I can't see him getting rid of John O'Verne, but either way, it'd be a shame to see one of those drivers miss out on a seat, because both of those are very deserving of one. But Taylor Barnard once again proving he has got the calibre of Formula E, a solid top 5 finish, and of course it's going to be 8.5 to him. Not as impressive as Mortara, not as impressive as Mitch Evans, but still did a great respectable job for the car he was given, and yet more points. 8.5 to Taylor Barnard. Next up, and completing what was a great weekend for the Jaguar squad, I've not said that for a long time, it is Nick Cassidy in the 2nd Jaguar. Well done, well done, well done, Nick. Of course, he started at the back of the grid due to a 20-place grid penalty, and he had to serve a stop-go penalty in the race because he was unable to serve all of that grid reduction during qualifying, so obviously he didn't qualify himself first or second, so that meant he couldn't legitimately start last. He also had to take whatever penalty was left over into a stop-go penalty in the race, which was unfortunate. Looked like it was going to be game over from there, really, and just driving around, doing some parade laps, getting the feel of the circuit and getting ready for tomorrow's race. But absolutely not. Today he has driven sublime to get himself here into P5. Of course, helped by the safety car timing, and he was able to bunch back up onto the pack. But this is what we've seen of Nick Cassidy a lot of times during the previous seasons. He's able to deliver a solid result when it looked like his weekend was already over before it even began. Whereas this pace from Jaguar been all season, it's been absolutely nowhere. But finally at Berlin, we see some promise. Not that it's going to do much good now, it's far too little too late, but at least it's a solid points haul for the Jaguar squad. It's 10 points for Nick Cassidy that wasn't going to be scoring anything, or I certainly didn't expect to be scoring anything this race, and he's far exceeded my expectations. Probably exceeded the team's expectations as well, so fair play to them for that. A perfect 10, of course it has to be for Nick Cassidy. What a climb through the field, what an absolute brilliant charge through the pack. It just goes to show Formula E once again proves that you're not out until you're actually out. You know, anything can happen until that checkered flag comes out, and it usually does. So yeah, a stop-go penalty starting at the back of the grid, and here he is delivering a P5 finish. 10 points to Nick Cassidy. Next up we come to Maxi Gunter in the first of the DS Penske's. A solid drive. Not much else can be said around that. The DS Penske's didn't seem to be able to unattach themselves from each other, could they? They were sort of like just driving around line astern most of the race, but DS Penske's Maxi Gunter, of course, comes out on top due to a mechanical failure for his teammate, which we'll come to in a moment. But yeah, Maxi Gunter, a solid performance. P6, this is sort of where they've been most of the season, haven't they? Just collecting the odd scraps and scrapes of points, but we've just not seen that next level up from him, have we? Which is a great shame. But that's no fault of Maxi Gunter's. I think he did what he could with the car he was given today, and I think P6 is a fair result. As mentioned, he was fighting around with his teammate throughout most part of the race, so that just proved that that's where the pace was. It's 8 points. 8 points to Maxi Gunter. I think that was a solid effort given the car he was given, and yeah, overall, solid. 7th place, we come to another driver that has received a 40-place grid penalty and had to serve a stop-go penalty in the race. It is Sebastian Buemi. Again, a great drive by Sebastian Buemi to get himself into the points after serving a stop-go penalty, being almost a lap behind. It was just a really, really difficult set of circumstances for them. But here they are delivering some points, and again, envision, you know, gone from absolutely nothing and being useless to finally scoring some points when it wasn't expected that they were going to, especially not with Sebastian Buemi anyway. So yeah, big thumbs up to Sebastian Buemi for that. That was a good effort, really good drive. Got his way through the gaggle well, timed the attack modes well, timed the pit boost well as well, and just really climbed through the field as a result of what was a perfect strategy and great race pace by himself. It's going to be 9 points. 9 points to Sebastian Buemi for that. Fair play, Sebastian. Thoroughly deserving of those 9 points because that was a great charge through the field. And yeah, can't really fault a thing on that one. Picking up a few points for the Andretti squad, we come to Nico Muller. Yeah, just a solid race, I guess. We didn't really see much of him, to be honest. I didn't see much of him anyway. Just sort of lingering around the fringes of the points, and here he is securing a P8 finish. Couldn't tell you how he did it. You know, I just didn't really see much of him, to be honest, and that's a shame to say, but at least he's picking up a few points once again when his teammate has difficulties and couldn't even make it off the line. So, yeah, unfortunate that, but for Nico Muller, it's a solid 7. A solid 7 to Nico Muller. Don't think I could do much more than that. It was a solid effort, a few points on the board, not as impressive as drivers further up the field, but just sort of did what he could with the car he was given and the strategy given as well. There was a lot to talk about that race, and yeah, Nico Muller wasn't one of those talking points, so I didn't see much of him. Sorry, Nico, but it's a solid 7 to you. Once again, picking up a couple of points for the Kiro Quid Pro Status Quo. Don't break my heart, my achy breaky heart. This is, of course, Dan Tinkton. Only 9th place on the board and really didn't make any forward progress this race. Sort of started where he qualified and just picked up a couple of points. It's not really like the Dan Tinkton we've seen of late, is it? Taking podiums, fighting for podiums, and of course taking victory last time out. Clearly didn't get the strategy right in terms of the attack modes and when to take them. The attack modes, of course, were really beneficial the drier the track got. So if you took the attack modes early, you didn't get the benefit as much, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what happened to Dan, but he just always seemed to be in this sort of area, the lower half of the top 10, and that's where he stayed. It's still a couple of crucial points for Kiro, but have now been overtaken by Envision for the points and also Jaguar, haven't they? Because Jaguar have had a great points all. So, yeah, they've tumbled back down to sort of like 9th, 10th in the standings now, which doesn't seem fair, does it? After the season they've had with a victory and a podium and Dan Tinctum always driving inside the points, it doesn't seem fair that they've tumbled back down to the back of the pack, but they have had an impressive season and they need to be proud of that. It's just that other teams have sort of like got that little bit more consistency in terms of point scoring this season compared to them. But no disrespect to them, no discredit to them. Once again, we're talking about a couple of points for Dan Tinctum and we're saying, not as good as what he has done before. So that just shows you how much progress they've made this season. If they'd have scored a couple of points last season, we'd have been jumping for joy. But now he's got a P9, we're like, yeah, okay, it's a couple of points, but you know, it could have been more. So it's 6.5 to Dan Tinctum. Don't want to be overcritical of his race, but once again, drivers ahead, did a better job, got the points, got more of a result out of it. But Dan Tinctum will be refocused for next race, and hopefully he can be back on the podium again, because he seems to enjoy being there. 5th in the standings he is, 5th in the driver's standings, all on his own there, and that is thoroughly, thoroughly commendable. 6.5 to Dan Tinctum. Picking up the final points paying position, we come to Antonio Felix da Costa in the Porsche. He initially crossed the line in P3, but then was given a 5-second time penalty on the cool-down lap as they were coming into Parc Fermé and to park the cars into the podium places. They were like, no, Da Costa, you keep going, mate. You've got a 5-second time penalty, dropping him from 3rd to 10th. The 5-second time penalty was for a collision with Mortara, I believe, which we saw on board, and it was a little bit of a rough and a tumble. It was a little bit of a tickle, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before that has been appealed and won, such as the Buemi incident from a few races ago, and it just doesn't seem to make sense that it doesn't fit the crime. Doesn't fit the crime. I'd have just given him whatever time penalty it was that he lost out to by Mortara, so they just swapped 3rd to 4th. I wouldn't have given him a 5-second time penalty, so he dropped from 3rd to 10th. I think that was a bit harsh, but nonetheless, cruel to be kind and all that lot. And once again, Da Costa getting shafted. He is now out of the championship hunt, I believe, as a result of that 5-second time penalty. I think he'd have still mathematically been in with a shout had he got that P3. So, yeah, big shame, big disappointment, but I've given him 4 points as well. Same as his teammate. But I have to punish him because he did make that contact that got him the penalty. But again, I think it was harsh on the FIA. So, yeah, 4 points to Antonio Felix da Costa. He once again delivered the result on the road, but the FIA and stewards took it away from him because they can. Just outside the points and finishing in 11th place, we come to Sam Bird. And there we have it, a lotterer of the week to Sam Bird, because once again he's not scoring points in the car where his teammate is up there delivering P4, and we're slightly disappointed with the P4 finish. As we know, McLaren are wrapping up at the end of the season. Sam Bird will not find a home anywhere, I am sure. This season has been very disappointing for him and has been shown up by a total rookie. It's been nice to see the relationship between Sam Bird and, of course, Taylor Barnard. It seems to be really friendly. It looks like Sam has given him a lot of guidance on how to approach this season, and I'm not saying that his knowledge has not helped Taylor Barnard, but in terms of his own driving capabilities and how he has done this season, it seems like we're tailing off towards the end of his Formula E career now, and what a great career it has been, if it is to be his last couple of races that we're going to be talking about him now. But, for Sam Bird, it's just difficult, isn't it? He should have been a champion in Season 1 at some point, but was always unlucky when it mattered. Was taken out of races, had mechanical failures while leading and things like that, and has suffered heartbreak when he should have been a Formula E champion, particularly in the Gen 1 era, maybe the beginning of Gen 2 as well. But from there, his career has sort of tailed away. The Jaguar move didn't work out too well. He's been saved by McLaren. That's also not worked out too well. Yeah, it's been a tough one, hasn't it? It's been a tough ride, but I really like Sam as a person. But once again, beaten by his rookie teammate. Has to be a lotterer. I think he's nearing 5 now, so it might be a disqualification on the cards. But I'd like not to disqualify Sam Bird, I would say that. I would like to try my best not to, but once again, a poor performance for Sam, and no points on the board. 12th place, we come to Stoffel Van Dorn in the first of the Maseratis. What a shame for Stoffel. Could have been a good points haul there. Could have been about a P5, P6 finish, but got tipped into a spin by Ollie Rowland in the closing stages of the race, and that cost him points. It really did. So yeah, the Maserati looking a little bit more improved in those conditions, and seemed like it was going to be a double points finish across various stages of the race, but for Stoffel Van Dorn it just didn't deliver in the end due to contact with a rival that wasn't his fault. It's 6 points. A solid 6 to Stoffel Van Dorn. I don't want to be too praising of him, but I don't want to be overly critical of him either. It wasn't his fault he got taken out of the points finishers and was looking to keep it going, and still finishes in a respectable 12th place. It's just a shame that 12th doesn't deliver you any points. 6 to Stoffel Van Dorn. Unlucky for some, P13, we come to Robin Freins. My oh my oh my. Started on the front row. And here he is finishing P13. Took the 2 attack modes early, and that really cost him, because then he was just dropping like a stone in the closing stages on the others that all had 1 attack mode left, and he just could not offer any defence for that. So it was a gamble that they took, and it failed dramatically for them, unfortunately. I don't fully hold Freins to account for that. Of course, the strategic gamble didn't pay off, and that's a team error as well as his own for listening to it, I suppose. But yeah, he didn't have an attack mode to offer any sort of defence in the closing stages and lost out heavily as a result. I don't really know. Don't really know what to say. Just a big disappointment, and I've given him 3. 3 to Freins. Big shame. It could have been so much more. Lining up on the front row of the grid, you could see where Buemi ended up from the pit lane start, from the back row start, and a stop-go penalty in race as well. So there was definitely more on the cards for that car. A potential podium, certainly a top 5 finish. But here he is. Couldn't offer any defence in the closing stages and tumbled down the order. 3 to Robin Freins. 14th place, we come to Jake Hughes, and another Maserati got tipped into the spin in this race, which is unfortunate. It's just massively unfortunate, isn't it? Got tipped into a spin by, was it one of the Porsches, or was it... Yeah, I think it was one of the Porsches. Well, it might have been De Costa, actually. Maybe that's why De Costa got a penalty. But if he got a penalty for that, then that would be even more harsh on Hughes, because De Costa still scores points, but yeah, he took Hughes out of the points. So, I don't know. But either way, Jake Hughes tipped into a spin whilst running round inside the points. Again, he was P7, P8 area. The Maseratis were really close inside the bottom half of the top 10. And, yeah, had his race ruined by no fault of his own, and tumbled outside the points and could not recover to score any. It's 6 as well, for, like his teammate, a solid 6. Not his fault he got tipped into a spin. And yeah, fingers crossed he can have a good race in race number 2 here at Berlin. The pace was looking quite promising for both of them, so let's see if they can keep that momentum going forwards and get the points that they deserved this time around. 6 to Jake Hughes. 15th place, we come to Sergio Sette Camara in the first of the Nissans. Debutising for Norman Nato, of course, who is doing World Endurance this race. And you know how it normally works with these kind of things. If the driver is deputising for someone that's doing a dual programme elsewhere, the points that these drivers score will be added to the tally of the regular driver. So Norman Nato is already disqualified on the Cruel Corner Championship, and of course will remain that way despite the fact that Sergio Sette Camara has come in. The only thing is that it's very lucky that Norman Nato has already been disqualified, because had he still been in there, Sergio Sette Camara would be scoring an of the week, a Lotterer of the week for his compatriot that will be getting back in the car in London, hopefully, because Sergio Sette Camara had a very Norman Nato style race, didn't he? He was doing really badly, struggling round at the back, struggling to make progress through the field, and then just shoved David Beckman in the wall. It was a late lunge, and it was like, okay, I've pushed him wide, but no, I'm just going to spin my car just to really shove him into the wall. Get in the wall, David. Bang, there you go. That's your rear suspension gone. Thanks very much, lads. I'm off. He received a penalty in the race, and then it didn't really matter from there, did it? So who cares? Yeah, just a very tough day at the office. So he can't score points because his driver that he's replaced has already been disqualified. But my God, had he had he not been disqualified, he'd be adding an of the week to the tally of Norman Natter, which is certainly not what he would have wanted. So yeah, that's second Nissan. Is it cursed? God knows. But a disappointing race for Sergio Sette Camara. Maybe trying too hard, you know. He's got this opportunity to get himself back in the shop window, to get himself a seat for next season, and he just overdrove it. So yeah, big unfortunate result there for Sette Camara. Lucky he can't score any points, because if he could score points, he'd be getting an of the week, and that's very disappointing. Then we come to Zane Maloney in the first of the Lola Apt Yamahas. Is that how it goes? I'm never going to get that the right way around, am I? But either way, Zane Maloney, a tough weekend for them, sponsored by Superman, like we saw back in 2006 at Monaco Grand Prix for the Red Bull squad. Superman livery sporting on the Lola cars, which looks really nice, to be fair. This is the proof that the pit boost still needs a little bit of work, though. Unfortunately, the cars that I'm talking about that finished the race are all now a lap down. They took their pit boost towards the end of the availability of taking the pit boost. They came out a lap down, and then the safety car came out for the Beckman Sette Camara incident, and that then meant that they stayed a lap down, but also because they knew that the time lost in the pit lane was going to mean that drivers went a lap down. There was no blue flags. And it caused a lot of confusion down here in the later stages of the race. You had the likes of Drugovic, of course, Zane Maloney, and the drivers that were lapped, all in the gaggle, fighting for position with cars that were a lap ahead of them. So, yeah, the pit boost needs work in that aspect, because it cost the drivers races that stopped towards the end of the pit boost, and also cost potential drivers that had not done anything wrong and weren't a lap down the chance to overtake fellow rivals around them that were fighting with them for position. So yeah, it was a tricky situation to be in, but nonetheless, Zane Maloney, it's 4 points on the board for him. It wasn't looking like it was going to be points at all, really. Unfortunately, they were propping up the back of the field throughout the most part of it, and then, like I say, once they went that lap down and couldn't recover that lap, but then there were no blue flags, it just made it a little bit chaotic, and Zane Maloney sort of finishes the best of the ones that didn't get lapped, I guess. Or did get lapped. I don't know. But either way, Zane Maloney, 4 points to him. A weekend to forget so far for the Lola Yamaha squad, but are still developing and are looking for a much stronger Season 12. But yeah, for now, it's just a learning year. And this one, once again, was a race of learning. Next up, we come to Felipe Drugovic in the second Mahindra, debutising, of course, for Nick de Vries, who is also doing dual programme in the World Endurance Championship. So whatever Felipe Drugovic scores here will be added to Nick de Vries' tally on the scoreboard. And for Drugovic, it was a tough race, wasn't it? He also had several place grid penalties as a result of the powertrain being messed with, changed with, gearbox, whatever. It was 20 places, I think it was. So that was a shame. So lined up on the back row of the grid and had to serve a stop-go penalty. But, of course, first time ever in Formula E, it was a difficult race for him to then make his way through the field like the others did. You know, Buemi did, Cassidy did, but look how much experience they've got compared to Drugovic. So once he was sort of like left alone, really, it was a difficult race from there. And, yeah, ended up a lap down. And ultimately, it's just 3 points to him, which of course leads to 3 points added to de Vries' score. Yeah, shame to see him so far down the order, but of course the penalty really didn't help him with that. Hopefully no penalties going into tomorrow's race, and that means that he can have a fair qualifying assessment, he can have a fair race result, he can be involved in the pack, he can be involved in the gaggle, have a bit more energy saving, etc. So yeah, let's see how it goes. But yeah, for now, it's just 3 points to Drugovic. Tough start to his Formula E career, if this is what it's going to be. But yeah, even if it's just a one-off, I think he'd like to do a little bit better for tomorrow's race. Yeah, just see how it goes from there. But didn't really do anything really wrong, didn't do anything really right. 3 to Drugovic. Then we come to the last of the finishers in Lucas Di Grassi, of course, also in that Lola Apt Yamaha squad, and it's 4 points. He's getting the same as his teammate, really. Down at the back all race long, couldn't really do much. No potential to do really anything, and then once they got lapped, but then didn't get lapped, but then didn't have blue flags and all this lot, it just got messy and meant that their race was over then, like, 10 laps from the end because they were a lap down. So yeah, big shame, big unfortunate situation to be in there. Like I said, I think that proves that the pit boost sort of needs a little bit of work there. The circuit was too short to have the pit boost realistically work for drivers to remain on lead laps, so maybe that's something that can adjust for next season going forward. But yeah, 4 points to Di Grassi, race to forget. Then we come to the list of DNFers, so the last to retire in the race. The first I'm going to talk about on this list, of course, is Ollie Rowland. And there we have it, Lotterer of the Week to Oliver Rowland, because my oh my, what did he do there? What did he do there? Okay, the strategy wasn't going right in the way he took his attack modes and wasn't able to make progress through the field. Lost out from a P3 start to fighting around that P6, P7 area. But it's fine. It's fine. All you need to do is pick up any points at all to make this championship seem less likely for the others. That's all he had to do. Even with Pascal Wehrlein finishing P2 with the fastest lap, even with Taylor Barnard finishing P4, even if Da Costa hadn't got that 5-second time penalty, dropping him from P3 to P10 and picking up 15 points, if Ollie Rowland would have just finished 6th or 7th, that would have been fine. You know, it's points that he's sort of still taking away from him, and that's all he needs to do. But instead, he had this really lazy dive up the inside, a late lunge up the inside, making contact with Stoffel Van Dorn, tipping him into a spin and damaging the front suspension of Ollie Rowland, leading to a retirement. Trying to blame Felipe Drugovich for, I don't know why. I've looked at it several times. I don't know why. I mean, it looks like Felipe initially outbrakes himself, but he certainly wasn't going to go ploughing into the side of anyone. And I think that caused Ollie to even brake later still. But why do you have to bother? It's a car that's a lap down, you know. So caused the confusion there again with the lap traffic that weren't lapped, that weren't getting blue flags, crazy. And then just drove it straight into the side of Stoffel Van Dorn. So yeah, I hold him accountable for the incident, I really do. I don't know as yet if he's got a penalty or not, but I'm sure he'll probably pick up a 3-place grid penalty or something, because it has to be penalised. But yeah, what could have been 8 points, what could have been 6 points, anything was better than nothing this race, and I think Ollie sort of lost his head a little bit with that. I think he kind of thought that he still had to try and outscore the likes of Da Costa, Wehrlein, Barnard, but he really didn't. Any points were better than nothing, and instead of being a 50-point gap that it is now, it could have been a 58, a 56-point gap, and all he needs to have is more than 58 points after tomorrow's race to be champion. But now he's made that less likely to happen. Do you see what I mean? So if he'd have got a 58-point gap already here, then all he has to do is match them all again in tomorrow's race, and he's fine. Whereas now he's got to outscore him to make sure he's champion tomorrow. So yeah, he made his life a lot more harder than it has to be. And my God, if he throws this away, then it'll be even worse than Cassidy last season. So yeah, of the week to Ollie Rowland. Very, 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 very unfortunate race that. And it could have been a lot more. Then we come to Jean-Eric Vergne in the second of the DS Penske's. What a shame for Jean-Eric, unfortunately for him. Broke down as the second safety car was ending. The last few laps were about to unfold, and his car was like, nah, I've had enough. No thanks, mate. So dragged it back to the pit lane. Couldn't get it out of safety car mode, I think that was the issue. But yeah, either way, just dragged it back to the pit lane and retired there. So the big, big disappointment. Out of a maximum of 5 points a retirement can score, I'm going to award Jean-Eric Vergne 4.5. 4.5 to Jean-Eric for that. Wasn't his fault at all this race, but as always, cruel to be kind and all that lot. Can't score him any more than 5. I don't think he deserves the full 5. He was fighting around with his teammate in the lower half of the top 10, but 4.5 I think is a fair score. And an unfortunate race, so maybe race number 2 could be better for them at Berlin, but for now, it's 4.5 to Jean-Eric Vergne. Next up, we come to David Beckman in the second of the Kiro race. Quid pro quo, status quo, don't break my heart, my achy breaky hearts. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't having a great race by any stretch of the imagination, but he didn't deserve to be stuffed into the wall by a Sete camera, did he? And broken rear suspension and instant retirement from there. So that was a big shame, big disappointment there. For a maximum of 5, Beckman's getting 3 for that. Probably if he'd finished the race, he'd have probably only got about 3, but yeah, Beckman's having a tough time of it. Doesn't look like he's going to be scoring any points anytime soon, not with the pace he had this race in particular. Maybe what he's learned today, he can go forward into the next race and hopefully deliver a result. He could do with some points on the board for Kiro Pro, really. Had he had the likes of... I mean, I wasn't expecting him to have the season that Tinktum has had, but if Beckman would have picked up a few points now, then it would have meant that the likes of Envision and Jaguar wouldn't have overtaken him in the last race, so... let's see how it goes, but David Beckman having a tough time of it, and it's 3 points on the board to him. And then last but by no means least, we sort of come to a DNS really. He did start the race, but he technically didn't because he didn't get off the line. It's Jake Dennis, what a shame. Yeah, he was lucky not to get collected by any other cars. He qualified quite low down the order though, hadn't he? So thankfully only a couple of cars to avoid him, and they did just that. Called for the safety car, and then he eventually managed to get it off the line about 40 seconds later than everyone else. Limped it to the first sort of refuge point, the safe pull-off zones, parked it there, and that was his race done. So yeah, technically a DNF, but really technically a DNS as well. So yeah, Jake Dennis, big shame for him, and out of a maximum of 5 points, he's getting 4. I think that's a fair score. I can only do that. So yeah, Jake Dennis, can't really talk about his race because it didn't happen. And there we have it. Those were the runners and riders of the race number 1 here at Berlin. Let me know down in the comment section, did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated standings with the scores I've just awarded are on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is right now, and based on how they did this race, have they gone up or have they gone down? Let me know if I scored any drivers too high, if I was too overly harsh with some drivers that I maybe shouldn't have been, maybe not quite seen and read the full situation there to see what was happening. It'd be interesting to let you know, to know your thoughts down in the comments section. And massive thanks as always goes out, of course, to Joseph Willows, JW Talks Motorsport, for providing me with a scoreboard that you see on your screen and for the driver icons in the corner of your screen as well. Without him, this series would be more pointless than it already is. I'll see you all again for the next episode out tomorrow at 6 PM. Don't miss it. I'm sure it'll be an exciting race. And yeah, let's keep us fingers crossed that Ollie Rowland can wrap it up in Berlin, because I'd love to see him win the title. But if he takes it to London and wins it there at his home race, I wouldn't mind either. But yeah, Ollie Rowland, you just need to get it wrapped up now. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and as always, much love.